Welcome to topic number 6 on project risk management. We have continuously mentioned about uncertainties, we have mentioned about risks, but now we want to venture into it as a topic so that we can be able to understand how we can identify those risks and what exactly are those risks. So we are saying it is a continuous process of identifying, analyzing, prioritizing, and mitigating risks that threaten a project's likelihood of success in terms of cost, schedule, quality, safety, and technical performance. Then we are saying parts of a project risks. We have number 1, risk event. What might happen to affect your project? That's a very important question that you ask yourself. Then we have the risk time frame. When is it likely to happen? Then we have the probability. What are the chances of it happening? We can be able to ask ourselves that. The impact. What's the expected outcome if it happens, if the risk occurs? And finally is the factors. What events might for one or trigger the risk event? Then we have categories of risks. There are multiple ways in which risks can be categorized. Final categories used will depend upon each organization. So the categories are going to vary depending with the organization, depending with the project. So we have, for example, the financial risks. What are some of the financial risks? For example, we have reduction in funding, we have failure to safeguard assets, we have poor cash flow management, we have lack of value for money. We also have very commonly the issues of fraud and threats. Those ones are becoming major within projects. You have had somebody has even a project of buying a personal asset, for example, a car, and they end up being defrauded, and they cannot get the car. The money has gotten lost. So those are examples of financial risks. Then we have poor budgeting. So wrong budgeting would also affect the project in terms of the financial risks. Then we have operational risks. These risks result from failed or inappropriate policies, procedures, systems, or activities, e.g. failure of an IT system. An IT system is information technology system. So sometimes we can adopt systems that are going to fail. And then we have poor quality of services delivered. And then we have lack of succession planning. And then we have health and safety risks. And finally, we have what we call staff skill levels. And then another kind of risk or another classification that we can have is the organizational risks. Organization engages in activities that could threaten its good name through association with other bodies. And then we have, for example, staff members acting in a criminal or unethical way. So even as we begin the project, we need to tell our staff on the do's and don'ts, because number 1, we also have a name to protect as an organization. When we do that early in advance, then we are safeguarded from this reputational risk. Then we have governance and compliance risks. For example, lack of an oversight board. People want to go into projects and they do not want to have those people that oversight them. So many things are going to go wrong in the quest to execute the project. And then the other one is ensuring compliance with funders, terms and conditions. The other one is compliance with applicable legislation. The other one is the taxation laws. And finally is the health and safety law. And we have benefits of developing an efficient risk management plan. Number A is that it helps you to avoid any disaster. So once you have a good risk management plan, you are preventing yourself from any calamities that might occur within the project. And then we're also saying it enhances your revenues by saving you expenses, and of course these are expenses that will arise because you have not identified your risks. And then it provides you mental satisfaction. Another one is that it ensures the successful completion of projects. Another one, another benefit of efficient risk management is that it gives you a competitive edge over other people or other projects. So when you have a competitive edge, you are simply saying you have a competitive advantage. And the other one is that it increases the sense of responsibility and accountability. And finally, it helps you to explore new opportunities and new ways of doing things. Then we have the project risk management process. We have risk identification, risk quantification, risk response development, and risk response control. So risk identification, we are saying that it involves the identification and determination of possible risks that are likely to affect the project. So for us to be able to identify the risks, we have an abbreviation that we use here where we call it PESTEL, which are the political risks, economical risks, taxation, for example, taxation laws, inflation. So through identifying the PESTEL, we can be able to identify various risks. We also have technological risks, environmental risks, and also legal risks. And then we have step number 2. Once you identify the risk, we have risk quantification. So this step involves evaluating of the risk identified in the first step and the risk interactions to assess the range of possible project outcomes. Its primary aim is to determine which risks need response. And then after that, we do risk response development. We are saying this step is in the project risk management activity involves defining enhanced steps to utilize opportunities and respond to threats. And threat response usually falls into the following categories. We have different ways we can respond to threats. We can do risk avoidance. The project is changed so as to avoid the risk altogether. In this kind of case, the managers feel that it is a better option to change the project than to deal with the risk. E.g., a company closes a construction site in bad weather to avoid the risk that someone will get hurt. Yeah, so that one is the risk avoidance. Then we have risk transfer. We are saying is the shifting of the impact of risk along with the ownership of the response to a third party. An example would be the team transfers the financial impact of the risk by contracting out some aspect of the work or taking out insurance in anticipation of the risk. Then we have risk mitigation, is the reduction of the probability or impact of an adverse risk event to an acceptable threshold. For example, taking early action to reduce probability or impact of risk is often more effective than trying to repair the damage. So how can we mitigate? That's an important question that we ask ourselves. And finally is risk response control, and we are saying this step involves execution of the developed risk management plan to respond to risk events during the course of the project. So we ensure that we can be able to control anything or any risk. We are saying whenever there are changes made to the project, the first 3 risk management processes, identification, quantification, and response, are repeated. So we can redo the process depending on where we are. So that is the end of that particular topic.